All right. Before the break, we had a couple guests in with very beneficial information. Keep that in mind. Everybody needs help from time to time. School is really, really stressful, and there's that Ivy Cares department here, as well as a counselor, licensed counselors on site. Because school is very, very stressful. But we have so I have to wrap up a little bit earlier today. Wrap up the lecture part. I have to go to a meeting, but you should have this block of time marked off to learn HTML, and this is an active subject we learn by doing. Let's look at something that will tremendously jump forward what we did the other day. Pseudo selectors. That's what we call it. Everybody familiar with the word pseudo? PSEUDO, similar to like probably saw pseudo code in one place, which they try to treat as something formal in that class, but usually a very informal thing, but more refined selectors. Also look at attribute selectors, because we haven't seen those yet. I mentioned the ID, class, and name, and we saw how to get ID and class in our CSS. It's like the ID and class, but we haven't seen name yet. So we do need to see that. So I'm going to put a quick page together. Anything here that needs running? Well, first I have my notes here to say in a new HTML document. So this back through all example stuff. There's only a little bit of conceptual stuff thrown on the board. This class is very much all actively doing stuff. Let me take this out of the front. So I'm saving a new file here for our example. I'll go over to my working folder. Where are we at? Week 4?
Yep.
Week 4. I'll match it like last one's. Oh, whoops, that's not the file. Let me try that again. Save this as a folder called week 4. What? Oh, I have to delete that. There is. Delete that one. And now we'll rename one of these new folders as week 4. Maybe. Week 4, and then this file should be index.html. I'm going to use predictive text just to fill everything out real quick. Pseudo selectors and media queries. It's a good tab, and we need something to put on the page. So let's just go grab some lorem ipsum text. You notice there are lots of generators. Some of them do start breaking away from just nonsense, and they'll like sneak jokes into the page or randomly put words and things on there. The joke ones are kind of nice. Generate some and copy it. 5 paragraphs, that'll work. So I grab 5 paragraphs. Most of them are like this. It's just how many paragraphs do you want to generate? How much filler text do you want? So I'll come in here, paste all that in, and then put a paragraph tag around each one.
What paragraphs did you do?
Actually, whoops, what was this? Let's use a little trick. So I'm gonna show off a useful trick. So I'm gonna turn word wrap off so we can get all the way to the home and end. And there's the paragraph tag. So I'm gonna copy that and just paste it on each one going down. And now I'll come back, get rid of that white space between them. This is the thing I kind of mentioned the other day, like instead of working top to bottom, left to right, repeat the thing you're doing, and that ends up whenever there's multiple lines that are very, very similar. Excuse me. Kind of working some repetition, some sort of repetitive pattern, so that you're not constantly changing your mindset frame of mind back and forth for what needs done at each spot. So put all the opening tags in. Then I got rid of the extra white space between them. Then I did all the indenting. I'll use the end key and paste that in there, and then add the slash tag so I can copy and paste that and the rest of them. Paste, paste, paste. Oh, I have to hit end key again. And get the closing tag. So it doesn't necessarily have to work going top to bottom, left to right. Everything else we're going to do is just here. But some sort of pattern, think ahead a little bit about what you want to type on that page, and then a little bit of pattern will make it go a lot smoother. Because y'all are probably well aware, 5 paragraphs is a really short web page, right? We ended up with way more than that on the page. We need our style sheet. So I'll create a new one, link. The relevance is the style sheet. We've seen this before. MIME type is text, is the raw data is in text form, and it should be putting together CSS rules from that text. And our hyperlink reference to it is pseudo.css. That seems like a good name. So I'm now going to copy to create that file. Okay. Then the end of that tag. And I'll just hit the hotkey for a new tab, Control N in most text editors. It might be Control Shift N in your text editor, but and you want to save it, have that thing, that name I just put in the link there. This is pseudo.css, that seems like a bit. Right now, the head section, that doesn't really show, right? Only thing that shows there is the title, and the browser decides what the title up in the tab is going to look like, so we don't have any control over that. We have a bunch of paragraphs, so there's not a whole lot of selection we can do. We can select a paragraph tag. Let's make them all, let's just do colors. Background color, we can say is going to be HSL with something close to blue. Remember that circle we started red. I'm a third of the way around the circle, about 120 degrees. So there's 360 degrees in the whole circle. That gets us to green. Another 120 degrees gets us to blue. So somewhere around 240, 234. That's closer to blue than green. Then S for saturation. How much? I always think of it as like dying cloth. Are we just going to lightly tap the cotton fibers into the cotton yarn into the dye, or are we just going to throw it in the bucket of dye and leave and go do other stuff and come back later and let it soak up as much color as it can possibly hold? So 67%, so about 2/3 of the way soaked in. Oh, in the dye reference, about 2/3 of as much dye as that fabric can possibly soak into it. And then how brighter is the room we're looking at it. Think of the rheostat, this little dimmer switches. How bright or dim is it? Let's make that kind of dim this time, so like 34%. That'll give us a background color on our paragraphs. Nothing fancy there, we saw that before. Before that. And a dark, maybe put some something light in front of it. So color, and when we use CSS with some of our other languages, I mentioned frameworks earlier, there we would have to specify foreground color. But if we're doing it directly in to go with HTML, text is the default when we say color. It's always going to go to color. Let's do RGBA. So red, green, blue, alpha. But we type A because we have one of those on our keyboard. Something yellowish. A lot of red. A little bit more green and just hardly any blue. Oh, and then some transparency. And I often like to do this on foreground background colors. You want to make sure they blend together nicely, right? I guess the contrast from that design principle earlier. You don't necessarily want the text standing out too, contrasting the background. So making it somewhat transparent always assures that the background color mixes into the color that we're putting as our text. This might not work so well, but let's try 60, maybe more than that, 70% transparent. Or sorry, 70% opaque, which would be 30% transparent. Makes those words a little bit easier to read, but we kind of ran out of selectors already, didn't we? That's where pseudo elements come in, because well, we have the elements, but there's other things about the elements that can happen. The most obvious one, let's copy this over. Make another paragraph, and a good example is we could hover our mouse over one of those paragraphs. So that's the pseudo part. It's not an element we can select, but it's just like an element we can select because the computer can definitely identify when the mouse is over top of it. So we put a colon and then the aspects we want to look for. So like hover over it. In which case, let's make this red with I'll switch to red and blue here. Just drastically changing colors. So just kind of randomizing the colors, but it should change colors when our mouse hovers over it. To help identify what's on there. Obviously, very, very nice when there's buttons and things that need clicked. Tell immediately what's what. We need some links in there. Let's put a couple links. I'll put them in the paragraph. Whoops. Oh, we haven't looked at lists, have we? I skipped lists because our textbook talked about those in detail, right? You'll notice that our textbook author really, really likes lists. Ordered list and unordered list. And what I had first was a dictionary list, and then the DD and DT are dictionary title and dictionary definition. That always made sense when I heard it. The textbook I learned, I used whenever I had a class like this, didn't even mention lists. List didn't make the cut. So it's back to that personal preference and style. But I always like to single out. That's always a nice one to single out because whoever wrote this textbook really, really, really likes lists. But when I went to a similar class, 2012 here at Ivy Tech, the text list didn't even make the cut of things to mention in the textbook. So I'll do an unordered list of some links, let's go to Google, maybe, /A, and just add something in there, equals, I'm pretty sure it'll find that from that. href equals wikipedia.com. Notice I didn't type HTTP or HTTPS. we really should, but typically, depending on the browser you're using, or actually very much depending on the browser you're using, it should carry through. Some of them will have a default. Safari will automatically try to make it HTTPS no matter, unless you explicitly type leave the S off in the address. I think Google Chrome will keep the same protocol, although they changed too. I just wanted a couple links. Href equals my.edu. There's a couple we can use. So save that, and up at the top.
You need to have the /UL,
Oh
don't
yeah. I also should really put list item in there too, shouldn't I? List item, copy that, and paste it at the beginning of each one of these lines. Then at the end, paste it in there with the slash. Copy it again. And paste it. Should really have that in there as well. So the computer can tell I went to Google before, but Wikipedia and my ID it doesn't recognize. Those are other things that we have about them. Oh, wait. Why is Google not a link? Why that will not become a link? If I'm missing the typo. Oh, I guess it doesn't like the not having that in there. Oh.
GH gets saved before they went reload.
Did I save it?
Yeah.
Google.com. There's the address, right? Copy that. Paste it. Save it. Reload it. I don't know why it's determined to translate it. Not turned into a link. Get this stuff out of the way so I can take some of this. Be that one. Oh, notice that it did add HTTPS in there. But it's still looking at it. No, I typed that in there. Apparently when I copied and pasted it. Oh yeah, I don't know why that one's not turning into a link, but I'm gonna erase it because I'm apparently missing a typo. We don't have much time today. As long as we got at least two. Right, y'all have seen that. Right now it doesn't recognize that I've gone to any of those links. I don't know why it wants to translate that. Oh, actually, notice Google is very wrong on that because lorem ipsum is gibberish. But Google thinks it can translate it into Latin, translate it from Latin. There are a couple words. Ipsum is Latin, but lorem is not.
I would wonder what it would do if you click English just to see what it spits out.
Let me something to check. Let's look at some more of these. So the anchor tags, there's other things that we can do with those, like maybe an active. When it's active, these are some of the most common ones. Let's make the background color green. visited. Right, we probably have just the general traits of it, because that blue that it defaults to might not fit your page. That's something that happens a lot, right? There's a good chance that the color palette you chose might not match that blue and purple they chose. So have a default color of something that'll show here.
So, did you try to click the Wikipedia or my Ivy just to see if it would actually do anything?
Did it not go?
No.
So it does need to know it goes to the internet. Some browsers will add them in. Safari will add it in. Apparently Google Chrome will not add it in. I believe Firefox will also add it in. They're trying to translate. So some of them will add it in, some of them won't. Make sure you, in general, yeah, probably want to include it every time. Oh yes, so now I turned them brown. I just chose a random color, but it's not that blue, which was a different color than the blue that is being used on our page. Actually, kind of it's close to that. I just picked a random color.
Also, I don't know what you do with Google if mine works.
Yeah, there was clearly a typo in there somewhere. I'm not. I didn't want to waste time looking for the typo. Visited would be another one. Right, I said make all the links brown, so that's going to stay that way. But people are used to links changing colors after they've been to them, right? So maybe our visited ones we can make red, dark red. I don't know how that's going to look. Dark goldenrod. That color I know is different than brown, but yeah. I thought I turned the predictive text off on here, but it seems to have come back on. That's showing on the very subtle changes, but you can see it. And notice when maybe it's something when we hover over it. Hover is a big thing, right? When we hover over our anchor tag, let's make the background this color. That way it fits the theme of our page, because we were just talking about consistent repetition is one of the principles we looked at earlier. So I need to turn that function off, I guess. It's just going to keep doing that. Yeah, because I didn't want to. So there's what the text color. I thought I just copied and pasted. That looks very, very different. But notice when we hover over it, now we get that indication that that link's about to be clicked. And then active, I can't really see there very well. While we're clicking, let me turn that hover text off for a second. Oh, actually, do something more extreme there. Line. Oops. Oh, I do need to turn that off. I'll comment that out so we can see it. You see that it very briefly turned green while it was being clicked. So there's the active part. Oh, I meant to do the color. That's why I couldn't see it. Not background color, just change the color. And this will probably work again. It's random. It's not like it looked good, but when we click it, we have that. Those are some of the big ones. If child, that's a useful one on paragraphs, or that'll be much more useful when we look at tables soon. Child, and let's say every third one, every other one, we'll make our background color lighter. From 67 to 37. And maybe back this off a little bit as well. Did I remember that wrong? I don't see any change here. Or did I forget to save?
What is exactly that trying to do?
So that will change every so many elements. So in child, let's go to Mozilla. On Wednesday, we'll look at the best one. Here's from Mozilla, the people that make Firefox. They have a really good example. In child, oh, so like even or odd. So even then every even number paragraphs. So 2, 4, 6, 8, those would have a different color. Or every third one, or yeah. There's different one. So yeah, it changes every so many. Can I type something different? In child, even. In child 2, what if I put just even there? Because that's the same as what I was thinking. Oh, that worked. Our even number paragraphs changed colors. Maybe I forgot to save it. Oh, n plus 2, I think, is what I wanted. The n plus 2. Oh, n plus 2 made all of them that color. Why didn't 2 do anything? I'll go back to even. Obviously, we're at even, we have odd, and order matters, right? So we do that, we no longer get the same cover text. That one's very, very useful when we get to tables. There's quite a few of them. The book has a long appendix at the end, but pseudo.
The active is all it's being clicked, right?
Yes. Yes. So usually we click and let go really quick so we don't see it. But sometimes if you're not like we accidentally click on the wrong thing and then drag our mouse over to the side. So active would be while you're holding it down. Yeah, so if we just search it, Mozilla has a pretty good one. This will talk about all of it, give you sort of a list of them, hover over things, autofill, enabled, disabled, those are really useful in forms. That read only or editable. You see a lot that are useful for forms. Let me put this in the chat room. I think everybody but Brady's in the chat room, right? You're still logged on, Andrea. Okay, I'll put that in the chat room. I just said pseudo elements and then went to the Mozilla page. That would be a great one for y'all to look into. One other thing real quick here, or a first view of it, we'll see it a little bit more. Notice how the background color went away, but the foreground color stayed on there. We go to print it, it looks a little strange. So that's where media queries come on. We saw them for pictures, but now that we have all that, at media, we'll see this a lot more with responsive design because like we saw with pictures, we have a minimum max width, but maybe we have at media print when we go to hit that print button. And then inside of there, we'll put a bunch of colors. So copy that. Paste that. We probably don't need those student elements, because when we print it, it's not gonna be changing, right? I'll keep the color one, I'll keep that in child, that would. Well, that's a background color. Background color doesn't show when we print. We don't even need a background color in the print one. And probably want to print in black and white, right?
How do you make it show the background color? I printed sites where it's just literally exactly what I saw on screen.
That probably an image. There are a couple tricks. Right here. Let's see if putting a background color specifically on print does. Right. So background colors get dropped. Most likely it brings it in as a picture. So you put in picture backgrounds in CSS. Gradients will work. We haven't seen gradients yet. We need to get to those. Another thing that I find very important, we'll see in a couple weeks with that same selector, the print selector. Links are useless once they've been printed, right? So I like to print out the URL of where that goes afterwards too. We'll see that. Actually, we can see it really quick. We'll see that soon. I was going to show it, but there's a couple things we have to get to before we see that. There are functions built into CSS, and one of them is content, so we can add words. Like content. For now, I'm just going to add the words, this link is useless. When it's printed. And reload that. When I print it, oh, it didn't show up. I have to go to a meeting. It's going to look something like that. We can add content to it, but this is probably a better start. So at media print, and remember that stuff we did on the with the picture? At media min width equals so many pixels, max width equals so many pixels. Instead of altering the screen sizes that way. That would be my recommendation on things to do for the next 45 minutes, because this is an active subject we learn by doing. Whoops, not stop screen share. Let me put that on the domain host so y'all can refer to that. Does everybody know how to remember how to view the source code? So the link is on our homepage on iRelearn. This one. Those ads. Go here, and I should be able to upload that really quickly. In htdocs, upload a folder. So it'll be that domain name. This one, the link is right there on our website. Paste that in.
That's on the homepage.
Yes. Actually, I don't know why it just did that. http://
It's, you have to.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that, but before.
You have to hit details, and then at the very bottom, visit on the safe site. The week 4 is not.
There we go. Yeah, that way you can go in there and see those starting examples, but I put that one in the chat as reference material. Oh, whoops. Right click and view page source, and you can see the source code. Oh, I will look into where that's coming from.
So there is no link on the page to that.
Oh. Probably still signed in. Yeah. Actually, I think what we'll do is on Wednesday, we'll look at how to put the security certificate on there so that it is an HTTPS and then we don't get those messages. That's probably the best way to deal with it. We'll look at that Wednesday. Where can I see my button? $2 into index. Okay, there we go.
To be really honest, I've never seen like a right click on something get for lack of a better term, eaten by the edge of the window like that. You know what I mean?
All right, now it's on the home page. And I will, Wednesday, I think we'll just add certificates to it so that it doesn't make it, so that the browsers don't think they're unsafe sites anymore. That's probably the easiest way to deal with that. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? I'm guessing somebody doesn't have a question. It's really, my meeting's only for like an hour, so I'll be back in my office at 4 o'clock. So if you have any questions, from 4 to 6, I'm just sitting around waiting on that 6 o'clock class. So I can address anything then. Otherwise, y'all have a great afternoon, and I'll see you Wednesday.
Got a couple minutes?
I have a meeting with Lacey and Mel in like 3 minutes ago.
Oh.